Outer space. Vast, unknowable stretches of emptiness. A place of endless possibility and a constant source of inspiration for writers, filmmakers, and game developers for as long as science fiction has been a genre. But people are people no matter where they go, and even space is susceptible to greed, violence, and corporate interest. The Outer Worlds by Obsidian Entertainment imagines just such a future. And while the gameplay definitely feels like a spiritual successor to the Fallout franchise, The Outer Worlds puts its focus squarely on world building.
Hey everyone, and welcome to an all-new episode of The Completionist, where we don't just beat the games, we complete them. And to see more Completionist exclusive content, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/thecompletionist, for behind-the-scenes commentary tracks on how episodes are made, a private Discord, and so much more. I hope to see you all there enjoying the fun. Today, I'm taking a look at The Outer Worlds, and I'm pretty excited. Not just because I love outer space, which I do, obviously, but because the world that Obsidian Games has created looks so detailed and weird. And sure, the gameplay and story look like a healthy dose of Fallout with just a dash of Borderlands for good measure, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. The game also puts a lot of emphasis on companions that you can take with you on your journey. So I thought, maybe I'd take a couple of companions along for this review of my own. Who will my companion be? I'm gonna go with Bradley.
Affirmative.
And Pat. Oh, let's do this!
Don't worry, you'll get him next time.
Here comes a new challenger!
Yes!
Danger!
Look, The Outer Worlds was never going to avoid comparisons to Fallout. Obsidian was responsible for Fallout New Vegas, and the directors are Tim Kaine and Leonard Boyarsky, who created the Fallout series. And to top it all off, it came out not too long after Fallout 76, which was a major disappointment for most people. That means that the time was right for a game that gives us everything we love about Fallout, but without any of the baggage.
You know you didn't have to shoot either one, right? But it's fine, I guess. You just keep being you.
And by bringing that same sensibility to a brand new series, we get something comforting and familiar, but also fresh, new, and exciting. And while the version of Outer Worlds I played on the PS4 still has a couple of its own technical issues, and a similar tone to the beloved post-apocalyptic series, the focus here is firmly on creating a brand new world to explore.
Actually, Gerard, it's technically more than one world, since you get to explore a 6-planet system known as Halcyon.
Thank you, Bradley. That's exactly why I brought you along. The Outer Worlds takes place in an alternate future where megacorporations have begun colonizing distant star systems, including Halcyon. But one of the two massive ships full of colonists never arrived, and so the other one settled in without them. Now, years later, you play as a colonist known as the Stranger from that missing ship, the Hope. The Stranger has been woken up by a mad scientist named Phineas Wells. Because if you're born with the name Phineas, there's a 100% chance you're gonna grow up to be a mad scientist. And Phineas needs the Stranger's help to wake up the other colonists. So you venture off to the nearby planets, and as it turns out, they aren't doing so well. The board, which is the name of the mega conglomerate made up of all the various companies, isn't that great at managing a star system, which comes as a total shock because usually corporations are awesome when totally unchecked and left to their own devices. So the Stranger finds himself or herself caught between the board, Phineas, and various other interests as they try and bring peace to Halcyon.
Great summary, Gerard! You really described the hell out of that game!
Thanks, Pat. I appreciate that. What was I saying?
You had just finished describing the narrative, and we're about to discuss the game's primary mechanics.
Oh yeah, that's right. Now, as you can probably guess, the gameplay in Outer Worlds has a lot of superficial similarities to that of Fallout, but there's a larger emphasis on conversation and negotiations with skills like persuasion, lying, intimidation, and stealth, which all allow you to avoid combat altogether. But if you feel like going in guns a-blazing, there's also options with upgradable skills and weapons, like the ability to slow down time and elemental damage to help you take out certain enemies. There are also a few wacky-ass science weapons like the shrink ray, which, well, you know, I'll let you figure that one out.
It shrinks people.
Yes, it shrinks people.
You're welcome.
And of course, there are the aforementioned companions, like my buddies Pat and Bradley here. And finally, there's the Supernova difficulty level, which can't be changed at any time, limits your saves and your fast travels, forces you to sleep, eat, and drink to survive, and makes the death of your companions permanent and irreversible.
I'm sorry, what was that last part?
Don't worry, you guys will be fine. Or at least you will. I am a little worried about Pat.
I'll be fine.
Oh my god, just calm down, man. Jesus. Good afternoon, I'm Gerard the Completionist, and I'm interrupting this video to tell you about the Completionist Legacy Tour happening this summer. When? I don't know, there's a bunch of days. Do you expect me to list them all right here, right now? I mean, I don't remember all of them. Jesus. You'll find all the dates and locations listed right here. What's the show about, you ask? Well, it's my show. It's about whatever the hell I want it to be about, so you better show up and eat your vegetables, Brian, so we can enjoy the show together. It's about my life before YouTube and my relationship with my dad, and of course, video games. It's heartwarming, it's funny, it's tragic. You should really just see it. You can find all the details at thecompletionist.com/live with links in the description box down below. Please come to the show. I'd love to have you. I'd love to see you. Thank you. Yeah, I just showed the promo for the show. Yeah, he doesn't know it, but if the shows do not sell well, I'm giving Ted away. Yeah. Yep, Federal Express, overnight. Just gonna pack his things and send them. To who? I was thinking about Mr. T. The Outer Worlds is a pretty game with an incredibly detailed world. And while I don't normally think that just because a couple of glitches and technical hiccups can ruin a whole game if the rest of it is pretty solid, the Outer Worlds is saddled with a few unfortunate features that nearly break the whole thing. First up, the loading times. Now, I don't normally complain about loading times like this. I'd like to think that I'm a pretty patient guy. I'm chill, you know? I don't mind waiting for something to load if I know it's gonna be super cool once it does. But in Outer Worlds, the load times were around 30 seconds between every single area. Did you just leave a town and then realize that you need to buy something? I hope you don't mind losing an entire minute just to leave and re-enter the town. And there's lots of traveling and bouncing back and forth in this game, which means lots of time waiting. And while there are little ads and news articles during these loading screens to help fill the time, it stops helping pretty quickly. This is a AAA game, and if the loading times had been toned down even just a little bit, I don't think it would have been an issue at all. And don't get me wrong, this game looks fantastic, so I get why it takes a while. But if they had just restructured the way that traveling between areas worked, it wouldn't have felt so cumbersome. Because the major effect it had is that it made the world feel...
Worlds, remember?
Worlds. Thank you, Bradley. It made them feel really small. And it's true that in general, the Outer Worlds is kind of small and scaled back, feeling compared to the sprawl of something like the Fallout games. But the load times make it feel even smaller, which is a problem when you're supposed to feel like you have a vast star system to explore. Because I don't know if you knew this, but space is big, like really, really big. And a game about colonizing distant star systems should make it a priority to get that feeling across. But the Outer Worlds ends up feeling more like, I don't know, the outer counties, outer regions, which brings us to the next major technical issue.
Tell us about it, Gerard. We're dying to know.
Oh my God, Pat. Every time you yell, it's like my brain totally resets and I can't get anything done, which actually ties perfectly into the next big issue.
You're welcome.
Okay, so the Outer Worlds has a flaw system where your character can develop a fear of something that hurts them a certain amount. So for instance, if you take a bunch of fall damage, you might get a fear of heights. It's actually a really cool idea. The flaws give you a temporary debuff, but also allow you to choose a permanent perk. It's really neat, but I was unaware of a major glitch around one of the flaws, a fear of robots, which was fun when I was running into robots out in the wild. But one of your companions is a cleaning robot named Sam, who actually is a pretty entertaining character, especially once he develops a relationship with your ship's AI. So even though I had a fear of robots, I decided to bring him along with me occasionally. But when Sam was in my party, the game was constantly running a check against my fear of robots, and it caused the game to stutter to the point where it was almost unplayable.
That sounds terrible!
Yeah, it was, Pat. So eventually, I just had to leave him back at the ship, and in a game that's all about choice, it was a bummer to have that choice of a companion taken away from me. But again, it was a small technical issue that highlighted an even bigger problem, which was my general indifference towards the companions. I didn't end up missing having Sam with me, because while he was entertaining, I never got invested in him, or really any of them. There are loyalty missions for each companion, but they feel really rote. And afterwards, I didn't feel like I knew them any better, as opposed to something like, let's say, Mass Effect 2, where the loyalty missions end up feeling like the integral part of the game. And the craziest thing about it is that all of the minor characters are so fun and interesting that it seems like they should have been able to do the same for the companions, but they were just kind of there, except for Sam, who literally broke the game.
That sounds horrible, man. I'm sorry you had to deal with that.
Thanks, Bradley. I really appreciate that.
I'm also sorry, Gerard.
Okay, you know what? This is Sam the Robot all over again. I am so on edge, I can't get anything done. I'm trading you out. Let's go, Pat. Okay. Who do I pick now? Frazier.
Whatever, man.
If you've played any previous games by Obsidian Entertainment, it should come as no surprise that The Outer Worlds creates a vivid, vibrant series of worlds for exploring. And while the other gameplay elements aren't ignored completely, the characters and locations are definitely the star of the show here. Isn't that right, Frazier?
Man, I don't even have an opinion.
Fair enough. That's kind of how The Outer Worlds seems to feel about combat as well, which isn't to say that the combat is bad, because it's not, it's just isn't the main draw here. And although there are all sorts of weapons and guns, I mostly picked a few early on that I loved and stuck with them throughout. For instance, I got a fire saber really early on and just kept leveling it up thanks to the help of the workbenches scattered throughout the game. Because let's be real, it's not like I'm gonna not use a fire saber. I mean, come on. And the companions had their own skills and abilities that could be leveled up as well, like Bradley's ability to help make sure I'm as specific and accurate as possible.
I do what I can.
Or Frazier's intense apathy to help keep me grounded.
I'm sorry, did you say something?
And I really only had to worry about combat during my run on normal, which is when I also did all of the side quests. And those side quests were fun, but mostly as an excuse to see more of the world and meet its many weirdo inhabitants, since most of the combat all felt kind of the same. It was all pretty fun, but just the same few types of fun over and over again. And the same could be said about the trophies, which all occurred pretty naturally, although there was one that I had to make sure that certain factions view me either positively or negatively, which I did just by murdering an entire town and then reloading my save files so that no one ever had to know that I was a genocidal maniac. It was a good time. Murder's fun, everyone. And there are other achievements tied to certain decisions, but I was able to handle most of those with strategic saving as well. So I never got locked into decisions I didn't want to commit to, which I guess just goes to show that I, actually cared what the characters in this world thought of me, which either speaks to the game's skill at world building or my intensity to be liked.
I like you, Gerard.
Yeah, sure, you're fine.
Aw, thanks you guys. The emphasis on choice and interacting with the world through non-violence was even more clear in my Supernova playthrough, which I played as a character that I named Supernova because I have a great imagination, leave me alone everyone. But even though I had to worry about survival elements like thirst and hunger, I was able to blast through Supernova mode in just a few hours, partly by avoiding combat pretty much altogether. I focused on conversational abilities and was able to negotiate and intimidate, which led me to catapult my way through the story with my stellar people skills. If combat had a little more variety to it, I don't know that I would have been so eager to avoid it. But it was kind of cool interacting with the Outer Worlds in a totally different way on that second playthrough. Just running and talking, followed by more running and talking. Although part of the reason I might have been skittish towards combat is that the companion death is permanent in Supernova, and I lost 2 of them almost immediately. which means that when I get the game's ending and would have gotten little blurbs telling me what my friends were up to after the game was over, I was instead presented with a super depressing screen guilting me about their deaths. And while I don't really care too much about my companions,
Feelings mutual, man.
I did care about getting to explore every inch of Halcyon, because it's so detailed and you can really feel the desperation in areas that are struggling, and the vanity and arrogance in places like the wealthy Byzantium. So even though Supernova was quick, it just added even more texture to the people and the places. Now, if I had been on Supernova while completing all of the side missions or trophies, it might have been a different story. But as is, it was fun and challenging without being punishing or stressful.
Hey, Gerard. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think we've lost Fraser. Would you like to get a different companion?
Not really. I mean, the video's almost over anyway, so. God damn it!
There are plenty of weapons and items to collect throughout the Outer Worlds, but the only thing it really has in the way of completion bonuses is its 3 endings. There's the good ending for siding with Phineas Wells at the end, the bad ending for siding with the board, and then probably my favorite, the moronic ending. If you give your character negative intelligence throughout the game, you'll be presented with dialogue choices that are, well, stupid. It's honestly pretty funny, and when you reach the game's big choice towards the end, rather than just going good or bad, you can make a decision so dumb that you fly your ship into the sun and end the game right then and there. It's pretty funny and indicative of Outer Worlds' morbid sense of humor. But still, some sort of concrete completion bonus would have been nice, especially for beating the game on Supernova. Yeah, there's a trophy, sure, but I always prefer some sort of tangible gameplay reward. Yet the game does show you the effect of your choices, and it makes sense that in a game like this, the rewards are largely story-based and centered around what happens to the locations and the characters. Because that's really the big hook here. The gameplay and combat is fun throughout, but it's nothing we haven't seen 100 times before. Instead, this game is all about personality, creating a living, breathing solar system full of weirdos for you to blast at, laugh at, and negotiate with. While I played The Outer Worlds on PS4, there were 5 deaths across both playthroughs, 6 companions who joined me throughout my journey, 49 trophies unlocked, 27 hours of total playtime, and a new fear of robots that I'll probably never be able to shake since they almost tanked this whole game for me. The robot apocalypse is coming, everyone, and this is where it starts.
So, there you have it, everyone. After spending some time in the Outer Worlds, I definitely feel like it was worth my while. The gameplay is reasonably fun, but everything about the worlds that Obsidian have created here is what really drew me into the game. It's colorful, funny, and vibrant, and even if I wish there was a little bit more to the combat, and I don't know how much the experience of beating it on Supernova adds, Halcyon is definitely a place worth experiencing at least once. So, with that in mind, guys, I give this game my completionist rating of Finish It!
Yeah, whatever.
Finish it! That's all the time we have for today, guys, so please, as always, let us know what you thought about today's episode somewhere on the internet. Guys, don't forget, I am going to a city near you for the last leg of the Completionist Legacy Tour. Dates are in the description box down below with the link. Buy tickets because they're selling out, and I want to see you guys. I want to see your beautiful faces. Guys, I've been Gerard the Completionist. These have kind of been my companions, and I'll see you next week for another brand new episode. Bye-bye!